This is a laminate fireplace that we're going to paint in this project. A common question about painting fireplaces is what type of paint to use. So never use a solvent-based paint, always use a water-based paint. And also that goes for your primer as well. So you need to make sure that the products that you are painting on your fireplace are all water-based. So to modernise this fireplace, so I'm actually going to remove this little moulding. It's not a wood moulding, it seems to be like a plaster based moulding. So that's going to be removed to try and modernise the whole fireplace. In this particular fireplace, the fire is electric, but you use the same steps whether it's electric or whether you have a real fire. I'm going to start off by removing the electric fire. To clean the fireplace, we're going to spray it down with sugar soap. We're going to leave this sit for about 30 to 60 seconds, and that's so that we'll let the sugar soap do its work and it'll break down the grime for us. Be careful if you are cleaning this and you have like wallpaper in the background or you have a paint finish that you want to keep. You could spray this onto a cloth and wipe down the edge of those areas. So once you leave it for about 30 to 60 seconds, come in with a very lightly dampened cloth, and that's just to remove any residue that the sugar soap might leave behind. So we're just going to wipe down the whole fireplace. The tiles on the fire surround in this project are going to be replaced, but if you were not going to replace those tiles and you wanted to keep them, the best thing to do is to make sure that you protect them from any paint or primer or any damage that can get done while you're painting this project. If you are painting a fire surround that has a real fire in it, do not light the fire until you have this project complete. I'm going to add some painter's tape the whole way around the edge of the fireplace, and I'm going to add some paper as well to protect the tiles. And also, if you have an electric fire and it's plugged in and you can remove it so that it's easier to work around. Or if it's a real fire, make sure that you're covering the fire surface in protective paper so that you don't get any paint on your surround. And the same with if you have wallpaper or paint surface on the wall, make sure that you're protecting those. And if you have carpet or floors as well, you can lay down a dust sheet to help you protect everything, so that you don't have to worry about getting paint anywhere, only on your fireplace. So I'm adding a piece of newsprint just on top of where I have the join. It's just easier to do it this way than trying to tape in the paper, and that will protect the fire, the tiles and everything I needed to. So to remove the moulding, the first thing we need to do is put on our safety goggles. Always make sure that you're popping on your safety goggles when you're removing anything like this. To remove the moulding, I'm going to try and pry it back gently, so a little bit at a time. And when I remove the first little bit, I can see that there's little nails that are attaching it as well as glue. So I need to make sure that I remove everything, so any glue residue that's left over and any of the nails. To remove the nails then that are left in behind, just use a flat nose pliers and pull them out. Make sure that you get them all out. And then I just give it a quick sand before I fill. So with the filler, it's a pre-mixed filler that I'm using, and I'm just pushing it into any dents or any holes that I can see from where the moulding has come off. So I'm going to push it in with my finger first, and then I'm going to come in with a filling knife and I'm going to scrape off any of the extra filler. And this just makes my sanding job easier when it comes to sanding. I always like to leave the filler dry overnight. When I'm sanding, I go in with a 120 grit sandpaper. I'm using an orbital sander for this. And what I like to do is sand the area, and then I'll go in with the pan in my hand to make sure that it's nice and flush, that there's no little bumps that I've missed or anything like that. So I'll use like my hand to make sure that it's really nice and smooth. So to sand the rest of the fireplace, I'm going to with a 120 grit sandpaper. So all you're doing here with the sandpaper is you're scuffing the surface so that your primer is going to stick onto it better. So in the grooves, I just rolled up a bit of sandpaper, and then on the flatter surfaces, I'm just using a sanding block. So I'm just going to get all the awkward areas first. Once I have all the awkward areas done, then I can go and do the flat surfaces. So again, always using a 120 grit sandpaper when I'm prepping. I'm going to go to the orbital sander and just scuff all the flat surfaces. And then I'm going to get a little brush attachment onto my hoover to remove all the dust. If you didn't have the attachment for your hoover, like a large fence brush is great as well for getting rid of all the dust, and then you can hoover with your normal hoover after. Then I'm going to go in with a tack cloth. So a tack cloth just has a little bit of beeswax in it, and it's great for picking up those last little bits of dust so that they won't interfere with your finish. And then I'm going in with Crown's Fast Flow Quick Dry Primer and Undercoat to prime the whole surface. So this is great for interior and also exterior projects. So I'm going in with a sash brush, and I'm going to get all the details first. So I'm going to paint all underneath any awkward areas. And I really like the sash brush for this because it's got a little pointed brush head on it, and it just can get into all those real awkward areas that maybe a flat brush you might have a harder time doing. So I think it really kind of makes the job that little bit easier. You can see here how it kind of gets into all those small little grooves and all those details that would be harder to get in with any other brush. So I just go around all the awkward areas first, and then with a paint roller I'll go around and paint all the flat surfaces. The next thing then, once the paint is fully dry, is to do the scratch test. So I'm basically just trying to scrape off any paint, and I'm just testing it to make sure that it's adhered correctly, and that I've sanded it properly and cleaned it down properly. Once you have those done, you never really have a problem with the primer coming off. But it's always make sure that you scratch test, and I'll scratch test every area that I've painted. So the top section, the mantle area, and any details around. So I'll do this to every section that I've painted. So with Crown's Quick Dry Fast Flow Satin, I'm going to get all those awkward areas first. So I'm going to paint all the awkward areas first, and then get the larger areas. So when you're putting on your first layer of paint, just concentrate on getting a nice even surface. Don't think about getting it all covered in and blocked in at this stage, because you'll get that done on the second coat. So it's all about just trying to get a nice even coat of paint onto your surface, and then your second coat can be about filling in any areas that need more coverage. So then again, with the microfiber roller, I'm going to pop in and paint any of the flat surfaces. Again, we're just trying to get a nice even coat. I'm not going to worry about getting all the coverage in on the first coat. So if you wanted as well, you could go in with a 220 grit sandpaper in between coats, and that's really just to get rid of any like drips or any like uneven surface areas after the first coat. And when you're painting the second coat, it's the same process again. Awkward areas first, and then a microfiber roller for the larger surface areas. So I teamed this up with a really vibrant yellow, so that nice pale pink. And I'm going to link the colours in this description, and I also have a blog post that I'm going to link to in the description as well, with more details and steps throughout this whole process. So just to remind ourselves what we started off with, and how we can change a fireplace with some paint colours and some things around your home to tie all the look in together. And even if we didn't paint the tiles, I think this would have been a huge improvement on that fireplace. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, just pop them below.